What if Naruto wasn't the cheerful, hopeful boy we all knew? What if neglect, resentment, and anger forged him into someone unrecognizable, an unstoppable force driven by fury and ambition? In this alternate reality, Naruto stands as a shadow of his family, ignored in favor of his siblings, Minma and Naruto, hailed as the heroes of Konoha. But the neglect only fuels a fire within him, awakening a power unlike anything seen before, Lion's Heart, a force capable of bending reality itself. Now, shunned by the village and betrayed by those he once called family, Naruto seeks revenge, forging his own path, free from anyone's control. Join me as we dive into the dark and gripping tale of a Naruto who refuses to be bound by the expectations of others, taking on not only Konoha, but even the Akatsuki in his quest to reclaim his destiny. This is What If Naruto Snapped and Became a God Among Men. Buckle up, because this is a story like no other. Recently, Naruto had been plagued by fleeting memories, fragments of a lifelong past, where he stood not as the unwanted shadow of a family, but as a man of strength and conviction. The warmth of his heart, once a defining trait, was fading. Day by day, it was replaced with a growing resentment that burned in his chest like a wildfire. The neglect, the whispered insults, the blatant favoritism, it was all building toward a breaking point. The sun hung high over the bustling streets of Konoha as Naruto strolled through the village. His confident gait turned heads, though many villagers despised him. Even they couldn't deny the aura of authority he carried, one that was alien to a child his age. As he passed a small vendor stall, a gruff voice broke his thoughts. "Loser," the villager spat, his tone dripping with disdain. "You're a stain on the Namikaze Uzumaki name. The twins are heroes, but you're nothing." Naruto halted. The words hung in the air, stinging like a whip. Slowly, he turned, his white-yellow bangs casting a shadow over his face. "Repeat that," Naruto said, his voice devoid of emotion. The man faltered, beads of sweat forming on his brow. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. "What's wrong? Weren't you proud of your words a moment ago?" Naruto stepped closer, his presence now suffocating. "Speak." When the man remained silent, Naruto chuckled, a low, cold sound that sent shivers through the onlookers. Then he began to ramble, his tone sharp and filled with venom. "You think you have the right to degrade me? Me, superior to those spoiled brats you worship. Minma and Naruto wouldn't last a day in my shoes. And yet here you are, pretending you're better than me. Pathetic." Before the man could react, Naruto lashed out. His fists crashed into the man with unrelenting fury. The villager didn't fight back. He knew better than to raise a hand against the Hokage's son. But that didn't stop the boy. Blood splattered onto the dirt road as Naruto's punches grew more brutal, each one landing with a sickening crunch. The crowd stood frozen, horrified. This was unlike anything they had seen. The boy who had always taken their jeers with a forced smile had snapped. Just as Naruto raised his hand for a final, killing blow, a firm grip caught his wrist. He turned his head, meeting the calm yet stern gaze of Itachi Uchiha. Naruto greeted him with an unsettling smile. "Ah, Itachi, what brings you here? What are you doing, Naruto?" Itachi asked, his tone calm but laced with authority. Naruto tilted his head. "What does it look like?" "Punishment. This man dared to violate my rights." Itachi's eyes narrowed. "What crimes has he committed?" Naruto began to ramble again, recounting the man's insult and the countless times the villagers had demeaned him. "He called me inferior to my siblings, said I was a stain on my family. Tell me, Itachi, who gave him the right to judge me?" Before Itachi could respond, Naruto growled, "Don't interrupt me." His fury boiled over, and with a swift motion of his hand, he summoned a cutting wave of air. Before Naruto could attack, another hand intervened. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, grabbed Naruto's wrist mid-motion. "Enough," Minato said firmly, his voice carrying a deep sense of disappointment. Naruto glared at him, his eyes burning with defiance. "You're no better. You violated my rights more than anyone. You're a pathetic excuse for a father." Minato's jaw tightened. Without a word, he nodded to Itachi, who moved to assist the injured villager. In the blink of an eye, Minato teleported Naruto away. Back at the Namake's household, Minato wasted no time filling Kushina in on what Naruto had done. When he was done, Kushina turned to Naruto, her voice trembling with restrained fury. "Naruto, what were you thinking? Why would you attack a villager?" Naruto crossed his arms, his expression cold. "He violated my rights. How dare he insult me?" Kushina's patience snapped. "You will apologize to that man. You can't just go around hurting people because they say something you don't like." Naruto's glare hardened. "You demand that I apologize? Don't make me laugh. You've no right to speak to me about justice when you've failed me as a mother. You think your favoritism hasn't gone unnoticed? You're just as guilty." "Naruto!" Minato's voice thundered, silencing the boy's tirade. "Don't you dare speak to your mother that way." Naruto laughed bitterly. "I've had enough. Enough of you, her, the twins, and this entire wretched village. I'm done with all of you." With that, he stormed out of the house, leaving Kushina and Minato stunned. Kushina's hands trembled, tears pooling in her eyes. "What's happened to him, Minato? Where did we go wrong?" Minato sighed deeply, his face etched with guilt. "We've failed him. As parents, we've failed." At the village gate, Naruto approached the guards. They stepped in front of him, one raising a hand. "Halt! What is your purpose for leaving the village?" Naruto didn't reply. With a flick of his wrist, a wave of compressed air shot forth, cutting them down where they stood. Their bodies fell to the ground with sickening thuds. Naruto glared at the lifeless forms. "You dare stand in my way? Violate my rights? Unacceptable." He turned and began walking into the wilderness, his rambling fading into the wind as he left Konoha behind. The report came swiftly, delivered by a returning team of shinobi who had just completed their mission. Their faces were grim as they entered the Hokage's office, their voices low as they recounted the horrifying sight they had come across at the gates. 2 guards, both dead, their bodies mangled beyond recognition. Minato sat silently, listening to the team's report. His mind drifted back to the earlier incident with the villager, to Naruto's cold declaration, "I'm done with all of you." His heart sank. The boy who had once been his bright, cheerful son was now a storm of anger and resentment, leaving destruction in his wake. "What have I done?" Minato thought, his mind racing. "I should have been there for him. I should have seen the signs." He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had been so focused on training Minma and Naruto, believing they were the key to the village's future, that he had neglected the very son who needed him the most. Minato knew what had to be done, but his mind was a battlefield of conflicting emotions. If he found Naruto, would the boy even listen to him? Would he come back willingly? If not, Minato dreaded the thought of what might happen. And if he succeeded in bringing Naruto back to the village, what then? Could he punish his own son for these crimes? Pushing those thoughts aside, Minato stood with renewed resolve. He couldn't let his personal feelings stop him. He needed to find Naruto before things escalated further. Minato called for the Umbu and gave them swift orders. "Find some Inuzuka. Bring her to my office immediately." Without waiting for their acknowledgement, he vanished in a flash, reappearing at his home to prepare. When Sum arrived at the Hokage's office, she found Minato waiting, his face grim and lined with worry. Kuramaru, her loyal ninkin, growled softly, sensing the tension in the air. "I need your help, Sum." "Minato." Sum nodded, her expression serious. "What do you need me to do?" Minato handed her some of Naruto's clothes, recently worn and imbued with his scent. "I need you and Kuramaru to track him down. I fear he may be in danger, or worse, he may be a danger to others. He's out there alone, and I can't let him get hurt or hurt anyone else." Sum's eyes narrowed. "Naruto?" The kid finally snapped, "Huh?" Minato nodded grimly. "It's worse than you think. The guards at the gate, he killed them." Her sharp intake of breath was all the reaction she gave. Without hesitation, she handed the clothes to Kuramaru, who sniffed them intently. The ninkin let out a low bark, signaling he had the scent. Minato, Sum, Kuramaru, and a team of Umbu set out immediately, following Naruto's trail. The scent trail led them outside the village, to the edges of a dense forest. There, the trail abruptly ended. Kuramaru growled in frustration, sniffing the air for any lingering traces, but there was nothing. The boy's scent vanishes here. Minato frowned, his instincts kicking in. He must have teleported or transported away from here, he speculated. Minato clenched his fists. Naruto, where have you gone? Flashback. Not long before Minato and his team arrived, Naruto had been wandering aimlessly, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts and muttered ramblings. The air around him felt charged, as though the universe itself was conspiring against him. Suddenly, a swirling vortex formed around him, attempting to suck him in. Naruto stopped, watching it with a mix of curiosity and irritation. The force of the vortex tugged at him, but he didn't bother activating Lion's heart to nullify it. Let it take me, he thought. Anywhere is better than here. The vortex spat him out unceremoniously in front of a dark, ominous cave. Naruto brushed himself off, muttering angrily about the interruption. Flashback end. Naruto's ramblings were cut short as another vortex appeared nearby. From it emerged a man in a swirling mask. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Who the hell are you? What's your deal? Dragging me here? He began ranting, pacing back and forth, his words sharp and disjointed. The masked man, Toby, chuckled lightly, his tone almost mocking. You should be thankful, Naruto. If it weren't for me, your father would have dragged you back to the village by now. Naruto stopped pacing, his expression darkening at the mention of Minato. So he did come after me, he muttered before launching into another tirade. Of course he did. He's probably furious about the guards. They shouldn't have stood in my way. They violated my rights. Toby watched him silently, waiting for Naruto's rant to end. When the boy finally paused, Toby spoke again. I didn't bring you here out of the goodness of my heart, you know. Naruto crossed his arms. Then what do you want? I want you to join my organization, the Akatsuki, Toby stated, his voice smooth and persuasive. Naruto scoffed, shaking his head. I don't want to satisfy anyone's agenda, but my own. Toby smirked. You're free to do whatever you want in your free time, as long as you perform for us. Naruto shook his head. No deal. I don't take orders from anyone. Toby's demeanor shifted, and he leaned closer, his voice low and threatening. Then I'll have to use force to convince you. Naruto's eyes narrowed. What right do you have to force obedience on me? That's a violation of my rights. Without waiting for a response, he unleashed a wave of wind, imbued with the power of Lion's heart. The attack tore through the ground, but passed harmlessly through Toby. Naruto's expression twisted with displeasure. He tried again and again, each attack as ferocious as the last, but none of them touched Toby. The masked man smirked. Is that all? My turn. He summoned giant shuriken from his dimension, hurling them at Naruto with deadly intent. Naruto activated Lion's heart, the authority making him impervious to Toby's shuriken. You're not the only one who's invincible, Naruto said, a smirk playing on his lips. He kicked some pebbles toward Toby. The pebbles, imbued with Lion's heart, became deadly, but the attack phased through Toby effortlessly. Toby attempted to trap Naruto in his Kamui dimension, but Naruto's Lion's heart rendered the vortex ineffective. Toby stared in shock as the boy stood unscathed. Naruto seized the moment to ramble about his superiority, declaring himself above Toby, his family, and the villagers who had wronged him. You think you can control me? I'm better than all of you, he shouted, his voice echoing through the cave. As Toby studied Naruto's movements, he noticed the boy's exhaustion, despite his bravado. We should call it a draw, Toby suggested, his tone shifting to one of negotiation. Your power is impressive, but it's too much for your body to handle right now. Naruto hesitated, the weight of his fatigue pressing down on him. Reluctantly, he agreed to the draw, though it left a bitter taste in his mouth. The two struck up a deal, with Naruto laying down stipulations for his potential involvement with the Akatsuki. He was determined to maintain his autonomy, unwilling to be a pawn in anyone else's game. As they discussed the terms, Naruto felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of a new path, one where he could finally assert his rights and carve out his own destiny. After their negotiations concluded, Toby placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, a gesture that felt both familiar and unsettling. In an instant, the world around them blurred, colors swirling into a vortex of light and shadow. When the chaos subsided, Naruto found himself standing in a dimly lit alleyway, the air thick with moisture and the scent of rain. They had arrived in the hidden rain village. The atmosphere was heavy, a stark contrast to the vibrant life of Konoha. The sky above was perpetually overcast, casting a gloomy pall over the landscape. As Naruto took in his surroundings, he felt a mix of unease and excitement. This was a new beginning, a chance to redefine himself away from the judgmental eyes of the villagers and the expectations of his family. Moments later, Zetsu emerged from the shadows. He had been watching the entire confrontation, intrigued by the exchange between Toby and the young boy. Well, White Zetsu said, a playful grin spreading across his face. Did you see that? The kid has some serious guts. I mean, standing up to Toby like that? Bold move! Such potential. Black Zetsu mused seriously, but also such unpredictability. Toby seems to think he can mold him into something useful, but can he really control that kind of personality? White Zetsu shrugged, a mischievous glint in his eye. You're such a downer. Lighten up. Maybe we can teach him a few tricks. How to be a ninja and make him a legend. That could be a bestseller. Black Zetsu sighed, a hint of exasperation in his voice. This isn't about writing a book, you idiot. The Akatsuki has its fair share of loose cannons. We don't need another one who might act on impulse, especially one with that level of power. Toby may be underestimating the risks involved. White Zetsu leaned in closer, a grin still plastered on his face. You know, you could use a little fun in your life. Maybe we should take him out for ramen. Nothing like a good bowl of noodles to calm the nerves. Black Zetsu shook his head, a faint smirk breaking through his serious demeanor. Ramen won't solve our problems. He sighed, a hint of frustration creeping into his voice. Toby is always so optimistic. He sees potential where others see danger. But I wonder if he truly understands what he's getting into. Naruto is not just a tool. He's a person with emotions, desires, and a will of his own. But I'll admit, keeping an eye on him might be necessary. If he's going to be part of our plans, we need to ensure he doesn't spiral out of control. As White Zetsu continued to joke, Black Zetsu's thoughts turned serious. Naruto's presence could complicate my plans to resurrect Mother. If he becomes a threat, I'll have to deal with him. But if he can be controlled, he might just be the key to gathering the power I need. I'll have to tread carefully. The storm is brewing, and I must be prepared for whatever comes next. After their discussion, Zetsu joined up with Toby and Naruto. The air inside Pain's chamber was thick with tension. His 6 bodies stood silently against the walls, their Rinnegan eyes watching Naruto intently. Konan stood to the side, her expression unreadable, her presence as striking as it was intimidating. Zetsu lingered in the background, their silent observations punctuated by White Zetsu's occasional chuckle. Naruto felt butterflies in his stomach as he laid eyes on Konan. Her serene beauty captivated him. Pain's piercing gaze fell on Naruto. Madara, he said, his voice steady. Who is this boy? Naruto quickly introduced himself, bowing slightly. I'm Naruto Corneus. Toby smirked behind his mask. Naruto is our newest member. Pain's expression darkened. We don't have time to babysit a child, Madara. His voice was cold, dismissive. If he's to join, then his training will be your responsibility. Naruto bristled at the word babysit. His eyes narrowed as he glared at Pain. This cripple thinks he can look down on me? Babysit? Coming from a cripple? Naruto muttered under his breath. He raised his hand, summoning a lion's heart attack. Before Naruto could unleash it, Toby moved faster, gripping Naruto's wrist. He leaned in close, his voice low and menacing. Cool it. The next time you try something like that, I won't be so forgiving. Naruto swallowed his pride and nodded begrudgingly. He knew that in his current state, taking on Toby wasn't an option. As Toby released him, Naruto turns his attention back to Konan. His tone shifts, smoother, more confident. You know, you're really beautiful. How about you and I? Konan cuts him off coldly, her response flat and devoid of emotion. No. Naruto felt infuriated by her refusal, but he kept himself calm. How could she turn me down? He thought, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Before he could reply, Conan's body shifted, parts of her turning to paper as razor-sharp paper weapons materialized behind her. Her expression was cold, dangerous. If you ever try to harm Nagato again, she says, her voice cold as steel, you'll regret it. Naruto chuckled, his confidence returning. Paper weapons, huh? What are you going to do? Cut me into confetti. Konan's eyes narrowed, her lips forming a thin line. Mock me again, and you'll see just how deadly confetti can be. Pain, observing the exchange, interjected with a voice that brooked no argument. Humble yourself, boy, or else I will put you down. Toby sighs, his tone betraying a mix of irritation and anticipation. He already knows what's coming. Naruto exploded into a tirade, ranting about his rights and how they were treating him unfairly. White Zetsu chuckles softly, thoroughly amused. I can tell this is going to be a regular thing with him, he mutters to himself. Pain's 6 bodies stepped forward, their presence radiating menace. Do you intend to challenge me, boy? Pain asked coolly. Before the situation could spiral further, Toby stepped in. His voice was sharp, tinged with disappointment. That's enough. Both of you. He turned to Pain and Konan, his tone firm. You're letting a child provoke you. And you, he added, glaring at Naruto, control your temper, or this will end badly for you. Toby's tone softened slightly as he offers a resolution. Naruto and Konan will fight. Naruto glared. I don't want to fight her. Let me take on the cripple and his creepy puppets. Konan's eyes flashed with anger. Watch your mouth, boy. Toby sighed. At your current level, you wouldn't stand a chance against Pain. Konan will suffice. Naruto scoffed but agreed. Fine, if I win, she has to marry me. Konan's lips tighten into a thin line, but she doesn't refute the terms. Her confidence in victory overrides her annoyance. Konan's eyes narrowed further. And if I win, you'll start acting mature and clean up that vile personality of yours. She adds that boy will have to act more obedient. With the terms said, Toby placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. The fight will be in 2 days. Pain and Konan's discussion. With the meeting over, and the room empty save for Pain and Konan, the two exchanged troubled glances. Why do you think Madara recruited him? Konan. Pain exhales slowly. If Madara is personally recruiting him, the boy's potential must be immense. But he's arrogant, undisciplined. That kind of personality is dangerous. Konan nods, her tone thoughtful. Madara must see something in him. Perhaps he's a pawn, but there's no denying the power he could wield. If he learns control, he could be a valuable ally. Pain frowns, or a liability. We'll need to keep a close watch on him. He's not like the others. Konan gaze darkens. Madara's intentions are never simple. We'll prepare for whatever storm this boy brings. Chapter 4. What are you going to do to prepare for the big fight? Toby asked. Naruto leaned back casually, hands tucked into his pockets, and replied, Nothing. I'm going wife hunting. Zetsu's expression froze. Both halves unified in utter disbelief. Toby deadpanned under his mask. Wife hunting, Zetsu repeated. You've got 2 days until the most critical battle of your life, Toby added, his tone measured but incredulous. Naruto grinned lazily, the expression almost taunting. Relax. You'll see. My future wives are worth it. Toby had helped locate and shelter the women Naruto claimed as his. Former slaves, all of them, marked and scarred by a world that had done its worst to break them. Yet now, under Naruto's protection, there was a glimmer of hope. At Amagakure's lake, the mist surrounding the lake clung to the air, muffling the distant sounds of the rain-soaked city. Standing by the water's edge, Naruto smirked at the woman before him. Konan's expression was sharp and unyielding. Her paper wings extended like a celestial being ready to pass judgment. That smirk will be gone by the end of this fight, Konan stated coldly, her voice cutting through the humid air. Naruto tilted his head, the smirk deepening. You're welcome to try. From afar, the Deva Path, Toby, and Zetsu watched silently. Konan wasted no time. Her body dissolved into a flurry of paper sheets that surged forward like a tidal wave, aiming to overwhelm Naruto instantly. The paper hardened mid-flight, transforming into razor-sharp blades that sliced through the air with deadly intent. Naruto stood his ground, his smirk unwavering. As the wave neared him, he casually raised a hand. A faint ripple in the air signaled the activation of Lion's Heart. The paper blade struck him and stopped completely. Konan's eyes narrowed as the blades hovered inches from Naruto's form, unable to pierce him. With a simple exhale, Naruto shattered the frozen paper into harmless fragments, scattering them into the wind. "Cute trick," Naruto teased. Konan frowned, her wings flaring. She launched herself into the air, summoning paper spears and raining them down like a deadly storm. At the same time, she sent several paper clones charging toward Naruto from the ground. Naruto moved casually, sidestepping the clones easily, his body untouched by the spear storm above. With each movement, he exuded an eerie confidence, as though he were untouchable. "Stop playing games!" Konan shouted, forming a massive chakram out of her paper and hurling it toward him. Naruto's smirk turned sharp. He raised his hand and froze the chakram mid-spin, its deadly edges glinting harmlessly in the air. "Games? You're the one throwing origami at me." He flicked his wrist, sending the frozen chakram hurtling back at Konan. She dodged, but the chakram grazed her wing, slicing through effortlessly. Konan grimaced, retreating into the air to reassess. "All right," Naruto said, cracking his neck. "My turn." He raised his foot and kicked up a small rock from the ground. As it rose, he imbued it with lion's heart, freezing its time. The rock became an unstoppable anomaly, shimmering faintly with energy. Naruto flicked it toward Konan with casual precision. The rock pierced through her paper barrier, shredding it as if it were nothing more than wet tissue. Konan barely avoided the projectile, feeling the dangerous ripple of air as it passed. "Impressive," Konan admitted, "but I've faced a god, Pain. You won't beat me with mere tricks." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "A god, huh? Let's see how your godly endurance holds up." He clapped his hands together, the ground beneath him rumbling. Nearby puddles of water surged upward as Naruto imbued them with lion's heart. The droplets froze in midair before shooting forward like bullets. Konan dodged nimbly, her paper wings propelling her away from the deadly rain. However, the sheer number of projectiles made evasion impossible. One grazed her arm, tearing through it cleanly. Another clipped her leg, forcing her to the ground. Bleeding and cornered, Konan glared at Naruto. "You're strong, stronger than I expected, but you're not invincible." Naruto chuckled, tilting his head. "I kind of am." Konan smirked, her expression dark. "Then let's test that." The lake began to ripple. Slowly, the surface of the water peeled away, revealing an endless chasm lined with billions of explosive tags. Konan raised her hand, the tags shifting ominously. "This is my paper person of God technique," she announced. "Do you really think you can survive 10 minutes of this?" Naruto's smirk didn't falter. Instead, he stepped forward. 10 minutes? I only need one." The tags detonated in waves, creating a cascade of explosions that shook the battlefield. Konan watched from a safe distance, her expression grim. Yet as the smoke began to clear, her confidence faltered. Naruto emerged unscathed, his body surrounded by a faint distortion of reality. The explosions had simply stopped, their destructive energy frozen in time. "Your move," Naruto said, his voice calm. Konan hesitated, realizing too late that she was out of options. Naruto moved like a blur, closing the distance in an instant. Before she could react, he gently tapped her forehead, freezing her body's time. Konan collapsed, immobilized but unharmed. From the sidelines, Toby let out a low whistle. "Well, that settles that." Pain's Deva Path remained silent, his Rinnegan observing Naruto with renewed interest. Zetsu muttered, "He's dangerous. More than we anticipated. The boy's a monster." Naruto turned toward the onlookers, brushing off imaginary dust from his cloak, his smirk as confident as ever. "Told you my wives would be worth it." He approached Konan's frozen form, leaning down slightly. "A bet's a bet," he said casually. With a snap of his fingers, the shimmering distortion surrounding her faded, unfreezing her time. Konan staggered slightly as her body returned to the flow of reality. Her paper wings flickered as she regained control, her sharp glare fixed on Naruto. As soon as she steadied herself, her amber eyes locked onto Naruto, sharp and piercing. "I lost," she said, her voice firm despite the slight strain. "I'll honor my word, but don't think this means I'll bow to you." Naruto's grin widened, his gaze unwavering. "I wouldn't want you to bow. That's not the kind of wife I'm looking for." Konan's wings bristled, her posture defensive, but she stayed silent as Naruto continued. Don't worry, Angel. You're still free to guard your crippled god. Konan's glare sharpened at the blatant disrespect toward Pain, but Naruto ignored it. But Naruto added, his voice dropping to a commanding calm, "You'll find that I'm your first priority now." Konan's fists clenched, the weight of her defeat settling over her. She hated the smug confidence in his voice, but there was no denying the strength he had displayed. Naruto leaned in closer, his tone softening slightly. "Besides, you might find being by my side more interesting than you think." He straightened, turning his back to her and gesturing lazily. "Come on, let's go. I'll introduce you to your new sisters." Konan lingered for a moment, her eyes shifting to the Deva path. Pain gave her a subtle nod of approval, his unreadable expression offering no solace. With a quiet sigh, she followed after Naruto, her mind racing with thoughts of what Naruto's existence would mean for her, for Pain, and for the Akatsuki. Toby watched them go, his expression hidden behind his mask. Inwardly, he cursed, "Naruto, that brat is growing too fast." He clenched his fist behind his back. He was already dangerous, but now, he's going to be even harder to control. What was that? That power? His smugness, his confidence? From beside him, Zetsu's voice broke his thoughts. This could complicate things. Toby gave a short nod, his mind already calculating. "I'll need to adapt, keep him in line while he still serves my purpose." Toby's eyes narrowed, reflecting his growing wariness. This could be the start of something much bigger than I expected. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed exploring this what if with me. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more videos like this. Your support truly makes a difference, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you'd like to see next. Until next time, take care and stay tuned for more.